Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to yet another interview on the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. This is a project by the ISKCON Ministry of Education, and we're trying to encourage devotees to read more often in Srila Prabhupada's books. The project is called Books Are the Basis. And today I'm very happy to have with us special guest, His Holiness Bhaktijivan Vrajananda Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us in this program.
Thank you.
Bhaktijivan Vrajananda Maharaj is a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, joined ISKCON in the late 90s, and then first served in Bhubaneswar, in Orissa, and also in Manipur. Also served at the Bhaktivedanta Institute in Calcutta in different capacities. And in 2017, like 5 years ago, Akinshana Krishna that time received the sannyas initiation as Bhaktijivan Vrajananda Maharaj, and since that time Maharaj is traveling, preaching Krishna consciousness, different places, and also Maharaj is developing a project in Madhya Pradesh, in Narasimhapur, close to the river of Narmada, where he established a farm community and also have a plan for a Gurukul. So thank you, Maharaj, for joining us on this important topic.
Thank you very much, Krishna.
So let's start. We'd like to hear your story, how you came in touch with Krishna consciousness, and especially, like how Srila Prabhupada's books affected your life. Maybe you remember who gave you a first book, or how did you came in touch with Prabhupada's books? Which book was it, and any memories of that incidents?
Okay. Actually, the first book I got Srila Prabhupada's was from my father himself.
From your father?
Yeah. Because what happened actually, after my graduation, I was a little inclination for spiritual life. But my father was not that happy. He wanted me to do some job. So but I was going different religious organization and meeting, and I bought those time 5-6 different Bhagavad Gitas, from different Mayavadi and the Divine Life Society. So many, because I was looking to understand Bhagavad Gita, what it speaks about. So, but I was not feeling actually quite satisfied. So one time what happened, my father had a jewelry shop. So sometime our devotee from ISKCON, they used to come for a donation. And so my father used to give some donation, whoever comes for asking. So and they asked, do you want to get some receipt? My father said, no, we don't want any receipt. So then they gave in Bhagavad Gita, my father. So my father kept it in our jewelry shop for a long time. Then all of a sudden one day he brought to our home, where we are living. Then he told me, keep it in where our like family deities are there. He keep there this book. So then I found, there is a Bhagavad Gita. I was collecting Bhagavad Gita from different. Then I was interested to see Bhagavad Gita. It was in actually late 1996 actually. Then when I started Bhagavad Gita, then I was just studying introduction of Bhagavad Gita. In other books, actually, what I read Bhagavad Gita, it was not satisfying because and the purpose of Bhagavad Gita was not mentioned. Actually, I could not find from those commentary I was reading before. But in itself, in the introduction, the Prabhupada, though it was a long introduction, so I tried to finish one night. Actually, I was reading. And one night I was reading an introduction of Bhagavad Gita to the Prabhupada's Bhagavad, because it was so interesting and it was giving me all the meanings what I was looking for. Then I thought, oh, this is what I was looking for. Then I asked my father, oh, where did you get this book? Then I told, oh, some ISKCON devotee came. I gave some donation. They gave me this book. And then I got to know about ISKCON. Then I asked my father about ISKCON. Then he had a little bad experience about ISKCON. So he was not actually, because in 1996 actually something disturb happened in ISKCON Bhubaneswar after Gaurav Maharaj left or something. Right? So he did not have good report about ISKCON. No? So he was discouraging me, like he was not encouraging me to know about ISKCON. Because you see, as we born in the Gorisha family, so they have inclination about Jagannath. So we used to talk about the Jagannath temple, this thing, that thing. My father used to tell about this. So he was not interested to tell me about ISKCON, what is going. So, but I was inquiring about this, where this. I was living in Bhubaneswar. There is a center in Bhubaneswar, but still I didn't know about that center. Then one time actually, then I had opportunity to go Calcutta. So because I was joining a finance company there in working. So I went for the interview. Then what happened in that interview, when I was coming out from interview, I found one of my old friend when I was doing graduation in the Calcutta. Then he suddenly told me about the Mayapur those things. I told him, where is the Mayapur and how far is it from here? Then he told it is just like about 120 kilometers from here, and this is the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Then it was strike me to me because my maternal grandfather, they are actually Vaishnavas. So they had their family deity, Radha Krishna deity. So I, because I was studying in their house, now my childhood was in my mother's house. So I knew little bit about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of the childhood. So then it struck me that when I heard that the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I was interested. So he told me that maybe Sunday is coming, so let's go to visit the Mayapur. So then we went to the local train, the Mayapur. And when I went to Mayapur, then I like to stay that place for 2 days. So then I spent for 5 days in Mayapur. That time just recently inaugurated Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi Mandir that time. So what happened, what interesting happened, so in Samadhi Mandir in those days, so they were giving Radha Madhav's beautiful picture. If you write Hare Krishna Mahamantra in one page. so, so I was interested to that. So every time I used to go visit that my Samadhi temple, not for to look Srila Prabhupada, but to get Radha Madhav's picture. So I filled the form with Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then I was getting a beautiful picture of Radha Madhav. So somehow from there, I met Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj. Then he told me about there is a ISKCON center in Bhubaneswar. So then I knew that in Bhubaneswar where I am staying, I am from that place. So there is a center. Because you see, young age, we are normally busy for our study and how to get job, so we forget about other things. So, so then I came back my home. So I got already my job. I was successful in my interview. When I arrived my home, my appointment letter was there. Already arrived. And So I was working that time, and then I went to ISKCON temple, Bhubaneswar one. So then I found they have a department called ISKCON Youth Forum for the youth students, and so that I was interested to that department. Then immediately when I met with a devotee who was in charge, Krishna Bhakti Prabhu, so he told me about what is the mission of this ISKCON Center and Srila Prabhupada. He told me more details. So I was quite interested. Then I was making up my mind, if I dedicate my life, better this society is a good place for dedicate the life. Because before that I went to Rishikesh actually to some 2-3 places, but I was not happy with the because they were not quite actually. Though they're teaching about austere life, but sometimes they don't practice the austere, what actually real austere life. So then I was interested. So I was coordinating both like in my working life. Then I used to go ISKCON temple every alternative day. Because from my house to the temple is not far, only just uh, you can say like 20 minutes by walk, or if you, because in those days we used to go by bicycle, takes 10 minutes to go. So so I was continuing. So they actually Bhagavad Gita I got from there actually, but it was not nobody was reading. But my father kept in our shop, my jewelry shop. But somehow I was a recipient of that book. Then I benefited from that book, and slowly that Bhagavad Gita. Then I started to make little note. And then I came to join after 2 years of my work. So I told my father, this is enough. So I don't want to work more. So, because you see, my father wanted to me work. So I told, okay, you satisfied? I work for you 2 years. So now I don't want to work anymore. So uh, let me join full time. So then in 98, I came because I was actually mostly attracted to Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, because I was thinking to become a good manager this thing, because in those days, because I was working in a finance company, so they had a good prosperity that company. So but when I saw Maharaj, he was such a great scholar, and sometimes he was a scientist, and he dedicated everything for Krishna service. So then it was actually striking my mind that I was thinking that if Maharaj could do that, why small thing we cannot give up? So then it inspired me to give up my job. Then I came to Krishna consciousness. So the point I am saying that since some of this Prabhupada's book was in my father's house, so I got that book. So that changed my life. Otherwise, I could go at some other religious society. No? If my father would not give me that book.
Yeah, it's always amazing how these books find the way to the right person. And it's interesting, Maharaj, you mentioned about how especially the introduction, it was interesting for you to see that here someone is taking the trouble and the time to give an introduction, like an explanation of the book itself. That kind of convinced you that this Gita is different from other Gitas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you see in other Gitas, there are no such much introduction much, and there no explanation what the books about. Speaking of, so Srila Prabhupada actually clarify everything in the introduction. So that was amazing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for sharing your story. So in general, what would you say why it is important for devotees to read regularly in Prabhupada's books? Why is it that important? What would you say?
Actually, in practice of Krishna in your life, practicing Krishna consciousness, particularly Srila Prabhupada's books, by reading Srila Prabhupada's book, actually it keeps on actually in our devotional service more easy way to practice. Otherwise, what happen? Many times we practice our Krishna consciousness. If we forget about reading, so many times we have so much doubt comes in our mind, and sometimes we think that oh, this service what we are doing, or this is just like some work we are doing outside, like something like that. So that's why Srila Prabhupada's books has mentioned everything very philosophically. It tells what we are doing. We are doing for service of Supreme Lord Himself. So that's why when we are regularly reading these books, and this gives us in the mind, no, whatever I am doing, this is only doing for pleasure of Krishna. Otherwise, sometimes it becomes, oh, I am doing someone else's activity, this thing, that thing. It will keep you away from Krishna consciousness. So that's why it is important to study every day the Prabhupada's book.
So by reading, we are reminded of our purpose, why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah, we understand the deeper meaning. When we study, of course, there is different ways. We can just read books. We can also systematically study. And in this systematic study, we often speak about different aims of study. We want to get understanding. We want to, for preaching application. And one of the aims is also to develop a Shastra Chakshu, that we, learn to see the world through the eyes of Shastra. Would you like to share some insights on what does it mean to see the world through the eyes of Shastra Chakshu? Do you have some example?
Yeah, one thing actually I could realize from this point, Shastra Chakshu. As we see actually all over the world, what is happening surrounding you. So everything is actually by the will of Krishna, everything is happening by the will of. If you don't actually study the scripture, then you cannot understand. And when you see that everything is happening by the will of Krishna, and they are all belongs to Krishna, then you'll you'll try to engage every particles in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, what happens? When you don't understand that whatever your surrounding, they are not belong to Krishna, are they? So then you don't interested to engage them in Krishna service. So through the Shastra Chakya and through the scripture, we see that everything actually in the surrounding. So they are belong to Krishna. Even the living entity or even the material world, whatever you are seeing. Even like the situation happened last 2 years. So in the eyes of Shastra, if we think that this is all, we take it, this is also Krishna's arrangement and this happened to make a deeper understanding about our own life and to meditate upon more Krishna. So through the scripture only you can understand actually this deeper meaning of the situation, what is happening surrounding you. Otherwise, you become very much perplexed or you become taken away by this situation sometimes. So that is very important actually to see everything in the eyes of scripture.
To understand that there is always Krishna behind whatever happens in the world. Yeah. To develop that understanding. Now, Maharaj, you have not met Prabhupada personally, right? New time. So still, when we read Prabhupada's books, we get a chance to meet Prabhupada there in his writings, right? This is and of course it's a common saying. Prabhupada mentioned that he will live forever in his books. Would you like to comment on this? What does it mean to meet Prabhupada in his books, and maybe how can we access this realizations? Maybe those who have met Prabhupada personally, it's also a different situation. We never met Prabhupada, but then still we get a chance to see Prabhupada in his books. Some thoughts on this point?
Yeah, actually, same thing. Actually, a long time before I was also perplexing. I was thinking that how great the devotees, those who are personal disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and they are associating Prabhupada, they're hearing from Prabhupada, and how unfortunate we are. We miss Srila Prabhupada's association, physical association. So, but one time I was reading Srila Prabhupada's book, particularly when I was reading Srila Prabhupada's Lidamrita. So Prabhupada's Leela when I was reading, so I could actually feel that Srila Prabhupada was actually in that book actually he's mentioning. And also Srila Prabhupada's beautiful actually one beautiful thing actually we see Srila Prabhupada's books is purports. Because you see the word meaning and the Sanskrit sloka is everywhere in every commentary you can see. But Srila Prabhupada's purport are actually very enlivening, the purports. And from when we read Prabhupada's purport, actually, when you deeper meditate on more than in that purport, you could see that Prabhupada is speaking to you. So I felt so many times like that when I was and deeply when I was studying, literally sometimes in midnight I was studying. So I could realize that actually Srila Prabhupada actually from his book actually he's speaking. And one experience I can share with you this. So one time I was a little confused after our spiritual master has been departed. So one night I was studying Srila Prabhupada's book and I purport, and that purport gave me so many insights. Feeling Prabhupada speaking that this is not end of your life, no? This is not end of it. So you have to go. Which Prabhupada is in his purport he was speaking that. So there will many obstacles comes in the life of devotees.
So you're saying that like we may go through different challenges, but then Prabhupada can speak to us through the purport, right?
Yes. Yeah, when you go a little deeper to the purports and you study deeper, the Prabhupada speaks about through the purport. Actually, that and
Okay, so maybe we can talk a little bit about the practice of reading and studying. You're a sannyasi, so you're traveling, you're giving a lot of lecture and talks. How do you make sure that you have enough time for reading? Do you have like a daily reading schedule, or you just read whenever you have time, or how is your reading look like?
yeah, actually, my reading was a little disturbed when we joined in the beginning, and up to almost 2006, almost because there was so much services, and particularly when you are taking some responsibility or beginning some center. From the beginning, you have to do everything, or you're busy so much. So up to 2006, actually, I was little. Uh, my study was a little. Sometimes I was studying, sometimes not every day I was studying. So then what happened in 2007 when I came to understand, no, I must read everything every day the Prabhupada's book. Then what I did, I made a little my routine of my daily schedule. So, so every day I used to keep evening 7 to 8 o'clock after the Harati. So I must read. So in my schedule, because daytime, but we are doing so much busy for service, different service. And particularly, you see, I was engaged in different projects when it was in beginning stage. So almost like 3 projects I started some from the scratch, really from nothing. So it was a really difficult time. But somehow Srila Prabhupada gave me so much support and inspiration. So then in 2007, I made a fixed schedule of my. Then I must read 1 hour at least to the Prabhupada's book. Then that was continuing. So every day I see that 7 o'clock I must go. Now I have to give I must go for read. So like in a school study we do that. So I did that and I told because I thought that other thing is not working. So this I must give some importance. So it will happen almost like 3 years, 3 to 4 years. It will continue like that. Then I came to actually VIHE for studying in Vrindavan. Then there I got more time actually reading and for studying little scripture. And nowadays, because since after sannyas, we have some other obligation. We have different obligation and also devotees. So, but still, I am still trying. When I am in the temple, so I read Srila Prabhupada's books, whatever available with us. Otherwise, when I am flying or I am traveling, so we have nowadays these facilities of your mobile or laptop. You have a database and so many other books. So I try to read. Or if I have small books, I always carry a small books when I traveling mostly because in flight and other things, so it's easy for read. And so that's why I try to continue that service.
Maharaj, what is your favorite book of Srila Prabhupada's books? Or...
Actually, Srila Prabhupada's books, I like every book of Srila Prabhupada's, all the books. So, but I like in Srimad Bhagavatam very much particularly, and first canto, but I like so much because in the first canto I saw Srila Prabhupada has given everything in all that even up to 10th canto you can get in the first canto itself. And in particular, Srila Prabhupada mentioned many past times of 7th canto, 8th canto, 9th canto in first. So I like this Srimad Bhagavatam first canto so much.
Yeah, that's interesting because Prabhupada didn't knew how long he will be with us, and then he wanted to make sure that in this first canto the essence is there. So, yeah, Prabhupada put a lot into the first canto actually. Yeah. Okay, and sometimes devotees they found it hard or difficult to read. You know, there's different obstacles, like sometimes devotees feel tired or they have a lack of taste. They don't like so much reading, or if they read, they, I don't know, fall asleep. They're tired. What would you do? You have any tips, any advice how to have a good reading practice? What would you advise devotees? How can they improve their reading?
Actually, like for my example, I can say, in the beginning also I was pretending like that. I have so much service and so much responsibility, this thing and no time. Because also you see when you are in Sankirtan, particularly in the bus, so we are almost like 6 years in the buses in the road. So that time also we don't find any time. But other thing I see that if I don't understand what is the importance of reading the books, because that I realized actually in 2007 when I understood how important is reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Okay, we are doing the service, everything, and it is actually okay. But to doing that service, where do we get enthusiastic? Because we have to do Ussa Nissadharyat. We have to do the service, do some service with a lot of enthusiastic. But unless until you read Srila Prabhupada's books, or we hear particular Prabhupada's, so then you don't get actually inspiration or enthusiastic to do your service. So that's why those because these things will come when you are particularly ISKCON. We are not like some other institute. So we are ISKCON means we have some responsibility. We have some service. Everything will come, but same time also to to making it in particular track. So our responsibility and service will go on side by side. If we are actually reading Srila Prabhupada, give more same importance. Otherwise, what happened? Like in the beginning, I told that if we are doing service only and not reading Srila Prabhupada's book, then after a few days it will not give the same enthusiastic when you in the beginning. So that's why for the devotees, those who are in this situation. So my request for them, so please, they understood actually what is the importance of Srila Prabhupada's book and how much Srila Prabhupada gave his like a drop of blood. He is interested in writing the books, no? And for what purpose? For us, no? For our benefit. So if we understand little importance of these things, then this will make us more. No, Srila Prabhupada has taken so much trouble for us. So let's we must read. So as a devotee in ISKCON, actually, when you understand Srila Prabhupada's importance, then we enthusiastic to read more and more. And then nowadays, you see, we have so many facilities for reading Prabhupada's book. So, so, so we cannot be say that we have no time. So, so that may be unfortunate if somebody else feel like that. No? At least we should think about Srila Prabhupada, how much he took trouble to write this book. If you think about this thing, then we will become serious actually to study Prabhupada.
I think these were two very important points you made. That first of all, where do we get our enthusiasm from? We need some spiritual, inputs. So we have to get nourished spiritually through the books. And then the other point you made is that understanding what how much Prabhupada struggled to actually write these books for us. So we should show our appreciation, right? This is it's kind of a way that we show our gratitude to Prabhupada by reading his books, because he wrote them for us. Of course, reading is one part. We have to read and absorb the knowledge, but then also at some point we need to learn how to apply that knowledge, right? We have to live according to Shastra. Our life has to become like Bhagavat. Any advices how we make sure that what we read we can also apply in our lives? Would you have any advice for us how to make sure to apply what we read, right?
Yeah, actually, suppose if you are reading something and you are not applying yourself, so you'll call like a hypocrisy, no? In other way. So in outside, so of course, actually, Srila Prabhupada actually made this books, and this book should be the guideline for a devotee, or making as a devotee, actually, to see. If you are not actually applying or practicing in our life, then what is the point of reading these books? So my practical is not advice. Some of my experience, as I say that as we see that in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, so when we are coming actually, so this was a little irregulated in the beginning. I saw, and because sometimes we do so much service, we don't give much time for reading and personal sadhana, this thing, that thing. So that was some time. So, but when I understood that, we should actually balance everything, our service, and sometimes our sadhana, and also sometimes our own health care, everything. So we must go on proper. Otherwise, what happen? Sometimes the devotee they neglect some part. Then what happen? And they discontinue the devotional service. So actually, that small book is the Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Instruction. That book is the Prabhupada. That book actually inspired me so much. Actually, how to practice ourselves as a Bhagavat or as a devotee. So this book actually a very practical guidebook for every devotee to how to practice in a very simple way actually to mention. In the beginning also in our Krishna consciousness, we know that we are literally allured by the Mahaplates, Mahaprasadam, so much sweets, prasadam, this thing, that thing. No? So, So when we read actually these books, and Srila Prabhupada's book, and particularly Nectar of Inspiration, so this gives us actually a lot of inspiration and also insight. I must do this, practice like this in my life. Otherwise, what happen if you don't maintain properly as per the scripture, your life is, then you face yourself so much trouble, and you give a lot of trouble to the management, and sometimes society, you give so much society, you give a lot of problem to the society. So that's why we have to very much focus and very much uh, understanding ourselves and careful when we are reading some scripture, and we try to put in practice in our own life. This is my humble suggestion for our devotee, not my advice. So you can take it seriously.
Yeah, nectar of instruction. That's a very good point. That especially the nectar of instruction gives so much practical advice how to live, how to practice. So from there we actually can get inspiration how to apply the knowledge. And another thing, just a question that came to my mind just now. You mentioned how you started to study more at some point. You realized the importance of reading yourself. You started to study more. You went to the VIHE and did some systematic study. And then at some point you accept the renounced order of life. You accepted sannyas. How do you see the connection between this step of renouncement and the study of the books? I'm sure, for those who want to go in this path of renunciation, the study of Prabhupada's books must be very important, right? Would you like to share something on that?
Yeah, as I'll tell you, the renouncement we are not renouncing Srila Prabhupada's book, right? We are renouncing from all these material opponents, which are obstacle for devotional service. So that's actually in renouncement life, as I just a few years now. So actually, Srila Prabhupada's books gives a lot of inspiration actually how to practice a renouncement of life. And also it gives a lot of actually security, and it gives you so much inspiration. Because otherwise, what happens when you are not reading Srila Prabhupada's book, you think that I am renounced to life, or I have. Then you are not actually in the step. You are not in proper. Your life is in risk actually. So that's why as I saw Srila Prabhupada's books. So these books are, when you read it, actually it give you like a armor protection from a different, because material world is always particularly I was thinking when you are going actually abroad for in flight, so much opposite elements comes. But when you read, just take out some books and read Srila Prabhupada's books, as you finish a flight 5-6 hours or 10 hours, it does not matter, you will completely protected. So that's why it gives a lot of actually help and give protection actually, maintaining our spirit, renouncing order of life.
I like that picture. If the Prabhupada's books are like an armor, like giving us protection. Yeah, because we are associating with Prabhupada, we're hearing transcendental sound through the transcendental knowledge, so that keeps us on a spiritual platform, helps us to be absorbed. Yeah, thank you so much, Maharaj, for sharing your realizations. I don't know, maybe do you have some final message? Something we have not touched on, something you like to share with the viewers?
Final thing that I have, wherever actually I go, I have a small message for everybody. All our devotees, at least we should, because Prabhupada has given so much time for us, so at least we give some time as a gratitude of Srila Prabhupada. So please endeavor yourself and give time for Srila Prabhupada's books. So that is my humble request to everybody. As at least to show our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, he said, reading of Srila Prabhupada's book. Is it okay with you?
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful point that Prabhupada gave us so much, and we can reciprocate a little bit by giving a little time to give attention to Prabhupada's message that he gave us. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for Hare Krishna.
Have your association. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama